The rain hadn't stopped for hours. It slammed against the roof like fists, loud and frantic, as if trying to punch through the quiet stillness inside the Walsh home. Thunder groaned above the neighborhood like some restless beast, echoing through the walls. But inside the nursery, it was peaceful. 3-month-old Leela slept soundly in her white wooden crib. Swaddled in a soft lavender blanket, Erin Walsh stood above her daughter. Watching the rhythmic rise and fall of her tiny chest, she brushed a loose blonde curl from Lila's forehead and whispered, "Mama's right here, baby." The phone rang, a shrill, unwelcome sound cutting through the soft lull of the rain. Erin hesitated. Something inside her, a mother's instinct, told her to stay. But the call could be important. Mark had gone to work earlier despite the storm, and her own mother had been unwell lately. She gave Leela one last glance and slipped quietly from the room. The phone was on the kitchen wall. Its cord curled like a sleeping snake. Erin answered breathlessly. "Hello," no reply. Just faint static, then a click. She hung up, frowning. Cold crept along her spine. The lights flickered once. She turned to head back upstairs and froze. The nursery door was open. She had closed it. She was sure of it. Her steps quickened. She nearly slipped on the wet floor near the front entrance, where wind had pushed the doormat halfway inside. She reached the nursery and felt her heart collapse. The crib was empty. Blanket tossed aside. Stuffed giraffe on the floor. Window wide open. Curtain flapping like a loose sail in the storm. "No, no, no, no," Erin whispered, rushing to the window. There was no ladder, no footprints below in the soaked flower bed. The screen wasn't torn. It had been removed and placed neatly against the wall. Her screams tore through the house. Within 10 minutes, red and blue lights flashed across the walls. Officer Hafford was the first to arrive, a tall, broad man in his early 40s, whose calm eyes scanned the scene with chilling precision. "There's no forced entry," he said after inspecting the window. "No sign of struggle, nothing broken." "But she's gone," Erin gasped, gripping the edge of the crib like it might hold her up. "She was right here." Hafford scribbled something in his notepad. "Who else lives here?" "My husband, Mark. He's working the night shift at the plant. And his sister, Rachel. She's staying with us temporarily." Hafford nodded. "We'll need to speak with both." The next few hours were a blur. Police searching every room. Neighbors questioned. Flashlights combing the backyard. But it was as if Leela had vanished into thin air. No sounds had been heard. No footprints in the muddy grass. No ransom call. Only silence. As dawn broke, Erin sat on the nursery floor, cradling the lavender blanket, rocking back and forth in shock. Outside, the rain slowed to a drizzle. Inside, nothing moved. Officer Hafford stood by the doorway, arms folded, gaze lingering on the empty crib. He turned to another officer and said quietly, someone knew exactly what they were doing. And somewhere down the hall, Rachel listened from behind a closed door, eyes wide open, unblinking. The storm had passed, but inside the Walsh home, tension clung to the air like damp clothes. Sunlight filtered weakly through the kitchen blinds, illuminating half-empty coffee mugs and a police notepad left on the counter. Officer Hafford flipped back a page and underlined a name, Rachel Walsh. "Just to confirm," he said, looking up at Erin, who sat wrapped in a blanket on the couch. "Besides you, only your husband and Rachel have keys to the house?" Erin nodded. Her voice was hollow. "That's right. We don't give copies to anyone else. Not even the neighbors." Mark, freshly arrived from his overnight shift, stood nearby in his stained work boots and neon plant vest, hands buried deep in his coat pockets. His face was pale, drawn, as he stared past the detective toward the empty hallway. "I had nothing to do with this," he muttered, more to himself than anyone else. "I was at the plant all night. Ask my supervisor." "We will," Hafford replied calmly. Routine protocol. Mark's alibi checked out within the hour. Security footage showed him clocking in at 6:04 p.m., and he was visible on surveillance during the time of Lila's disappearance. That left only one name unverified, Rachel. She entered the living room quietly, still in the same navy t-shirt and flannel pajama pants she'd worn the night before. Her hair was messy, and her eyes heavy from lack of sleep or perhaps something else. "I already told you," she said, arms folded. "I went to bed early. I didn't hear anything. Hafford gestured for her to sit. Rachel, you're not in trouble. But we need to establish everyone's whereabouts. Can anyone confirm you were in your room during the time Leela disappeared? She hesitated. Just long enough to draw attention. I live here. I don't usually report my bedtime. That's not what I asked. Rachel bristled. No one can confirm. I was alone. But why would I hurt my niece? No one answered. Mark glanced at her, then at the floor. Erin watched her sister-in-law with a mixture of exhaustion and suspicion. You left the kitchen. Window unlocked yesterday, Erin said suddenly. I told you to close it before the rain started. Rachel frowned. That's not true. I did lock it. I found it open, Erin whispered. Officer Hafford made a note. We'll have the window checked for prints. Rachel stood abruptly. I don't appreciate being treated like a suspect. You're not, Hafford replied gently. But right now, you're unaccounted for during a disappearance. That makes you important to the timeline. The room fell into silence. After Rachel left the room, Hafford turned to Erin. How close are you two? Erin hesitated. She's helpful sometimes, but we're not close. She moved in 3 months ago, after her breakup. Hafford narrowed his eyes. 3 months ago? Erin nodded. Right after Leela was born. He scribbled again, slowly. Something about the timing didn't sit right. Later that evening, while forensics dusted the nursery and collected fibers from the window frame, Rachel sat in her room with her bedroom door locked. Her hands trembled as she folded and unfolded a pink baby sock over and over again. She whispered, almost inaudibly, I did lock it. I did. But her voice shook, and her reflection in the mirror didn't look so sure. The days blurred. Morning bled into night, and night into something darker. Erin stopped counting the hours since Leela disappeared. Time no longer passed, it hovered. She wandered through the house in silence, stopping often in the doorway of the nursery, where the crib still sat untouched. The lavender blanket remained folded in the corner, and the stuffed giraffe still lay on the floor where it had fallen that night. I'm not moving anything, she told the officers when they asked. She'll need it when she comes back. Erin stopped cooking. She stopped brushing her hair. Her once cheerful face became gaunt, and the sparkle in her green eyes dulled to something distant. Mark tried. For the first few days he brought her tea, reminded her to eat, held her when the sobbing came in waves. But soon, even he grew distant. She won't come back if you fall apart, he said one night, frustrated, when she refused to get out of bed. You have to be strong. But strength, Erin had learned, was a luxury for people who hadn't lost everything. The investigation had slowed. Officer Hafford still visited, but less frequently now. No ransom notes, no new leads, no sightings. Just endless paperwork, unanswered prayers, and the echo of a missing child. One afternoon, a neighbor named Kelly stopped by with a casserole and a soft smile. Erin barely opened the door. Just wanted to check on you, Kelly said gently. I can't imagine. Erin didn't speak. She stared at the dish, then at Kelly's infant daughter strapped to her chest in a pink wrap. A flicker of something crossed Erin's face. Grief, yes. But deeper too, envy, rage. Kelly noticed and stepped back. I should go. Erin closed the door without a word. Rachel, meanwhile, had slipped quietly back into her routine, moving about the house as if the world hadn't cracked wide open. She offered help where she could: laundry, groceries, even cooking dinner when Mark worked late. But Erin noticed her hovering, watching, always too aware of where Erin was. One night, Erin stood at the sink washing dishes when Rachel appeared behind her. You should get some sleep, Rachel said softly. Erin didn't turn around. I'll sleep when Lila's home. Rachel placed a hand on her shoulder, too long, too gently. I loved her too, you know. Erin stiffened. Her hands trembled in the soapy water. Then act like it. Rachel said nothing. She backed away, the smile fading from her lips as she returned to her room. That night, Erin crept quietly through the house after midnight, unable to rest. She passed Rachel's door, ajar with a sliver of light escaping. Inside, Rachel was at her desk, flipping through something: photos, letters, Erin didn't know. But the moment Rachel sensed her, she shut the drawer. Too quickly. The next morning, Erin called Officer Hafford. I think someone in this house knows more than they've said, she told him. Her voice was clearer than it had been in days. Hafford paused. Do you have a reason to suspect? Aaron's eyes were locked on Rachel's bedroom door. Not yet, but I'm starting to see things I missed before. By the third week, the news vans had disappeared. The neighbors stopped dropping off food, and Aaron stopped opening the curtains. The world, it seemed, had moved on. But inside the Walsh home, the air remained heavy with questions that refused to die. Officer Hafford's visits became brief routine, almost apologetic. He had gone from probing curiosity to tired reassurances. We're doing all we can. Aaron had learned to hear what wasn't said. The trail had gone cold. There were no fingerprints, no fibers, no forced entry, no sounds, no witnesses. Nothing except an empty crib and a mother's unraveling heart. The nursery had become a shrine. Aaron refused to let anyone enter. Dust began to gather along the windowsill and mobile, but the blanket remained folded, untouched. Sometimes at night, she'd sit on the floor and hum lullabies to the stillness, as if her voice could reach wherever Leela had gone. Mark, meanwhile, had returned to work. We can't just stop living, he told her one morning, tightening his tie. Aaron didn't reply. He kissed her forehead and left. She didn't know when exactly it happened, but something inside her had shifted. The helplessness hardened into something sharp, a growing suspicion, a whisper that kept echoing louder each day. Rachel knows something. It started with small things. Rachel began locking her bedroom door at night, which she'd never done before. She started spending more time away from the house, offering vague excuses about job interviews or visiting old friends but never mentioning names. One afternoon, Aaron noticed Rachel's laundry in the machine. A lavender sock, tiny, no bigger. Then a teacup was caught in the rubber lip of the washer. Aaron froze. It looked just like Lila's. She grabbed it with shaking hands, held it up to the light, and tried to breathe. Could it have just been missed during a previous load? A leftover from before the disappearance? Or was it something else? Aaron kept it, quietly, wrapped it in a tissue, and slid it into her bedside drawer. That night, she waited until Rachel left. She said she was meeting a friend from church. Aaron walked into Rachel's room. She didn't know what she was looking for. A diary, a clue, a photograph, anything. The room was obsessively neat. The bed made, corners tucked tight. A single framed photo of Mark and Rachel as kids sat on the dresser. Aaron opened drawers gently. Sweaters, lipstick, bills, nothing unusual. Until the bottom drawer. She opened it and paused. A small stuffed giraffe, the same kind Leela slept with. Aaron had assumed it was lost when her daughter vanished. But here it was stuffed between a bundle of scarves. Her stomach twisted. She backed away, heart racing. Just then, the front door opened. Rachel was back. Aaron hurriedly shut the drawer, trying not to breathe, tiptoed out of the room and down the hallway as Rachel entered from the kitchen. Their eyes met. Rachel tilted her head. You okay? She asked, brow raised. Aaron forced a smile. Just tired. Rachel smiled thinly. Aren't we all? That night, Aaron didn't sleep. She sat in bed, blanket wrapped around her knees, replaying the day's discoveries. Something was wrong. Very wrong. But if she was going to confront it, she needed more than feelings. She needed proof. The next morning, she called Officer Hafford again. I need to talk to you. Not here. Somewhere else. He agreed to meet her at the corner coffee shop. She arrived early, clutching the lavender sock and a photo of Leela wearing it weeks before she vanished. She has it, Aaron said, sliding the sock across the table. And Lila's giraffe. I found it in her drawer. Hafford frowned. You were in her room? She's hiding something, Aaron said, voice trembling but clear. She was the only one unaccounted for that night. She lives here. She knew. The routine. She had keys. And now she has my daughter's things. Hafford picked up the sock and turned it in his hand, thoughtful. It's not enough for a warrant, but it's something. What if she gave Leela away? Aaron whispered. What if she didn't take her to hurt her but to keep her, or to give her to someone else? Hafford's eyes darkened. I'll look into it, he said, discreetly, outside the coffee shop. Aaron stood on the sidewalk, watching cars pass. For the first time in weeks, the numbness had lifted, replaced with something else, resolve. She wasn't crazy. She wasn't paranoid. She was a mother. as she was going to find her daughter even if the trail had gone cold. The sunlight poured through the window of the modest two-bedroom apartment in Cedar Falls, Missouri, casting soft streaks across Skylar Matthews' cluttered desk. She leaned over her laptop, sipping iced coffee as she scrolled through the results of her newly uploaded DNA test. She wasn't expecting much. The test was a birthday gift from her best friend, a fun way to explore ancestry, she'd thought. Just for laughs, a chance to confirm she was, as Diane had always claimed, a little bit Irish, a little bit German, and a whole lot of stubborn. But now, as the screen loaded, something didn't feel right. Skylar's heart skipped, then stopped. Immediate biological match, Aaron Walsh, mother, 99.9% certainty. Her hand flew to her mouth. Aaron Walsh, that wasn't her mother's name. Diane Matthews was. She blinked, refreshed the page, clicked around as if it could be a glitch, a mistake, some weird fluke. But the name remained, highlighted, unshakable. She turned in her chair, calling out, "Mom." Diane emerged from the kitchen, drying her hands on a dish towel. "Yeah, sweetheart." Skylar's voice was shaky. "Do you know someone named Aaron Walsh?" Diane froze, just slightly, but Skylar noticed. "I know. Why?" Skylar turned the laptop so she could see. "Because according to this, she's my biological mother." Diane stared at the screen. Her lips parted as if to speak, then closed again. She sat down across from Skylar, her entire face drained of color. "There's something I should have told you a long time ago," she said finally. Her voice wasn't defensive, just broken. "I didn't adopt you through any agency. I wasn't legally supposed to have you." Skylar's stomach twisted. "What do you mean?" Diane's eyes welled with tears. "I didn't steal you, I swear. I was given you 20 years ago by a woman who said you'd been abandoned. She told me your mother didn't want you, that she was unstable, dangerous." "Who was she?" Diane swallowed hard. "Her name was Rachel Walsh." The name hit Skylar like ice water. She turned back to the screen, searching again. Her fingers trembled as she typed Rachel Walsh. Another match appeared, 25% genetic relation. Biological ant. Everything spun. "I thought I was doing the right thing," Diane whispered. "I was alone. I couldn't have children. Rachel said she wanted to make sure you had a safe life. She knew I'd take care of you." Skylar stood, pushing her chair back sharply. "You knew this was a lie, and you never told me." "I was trying to protect you." "No, you were protecting yourself." Skylar stormed out of the room, grabbing her coat and phone. She didn't know where she was going, just that she couldn't stay. She sat in her car in the parking lot for nearly an hour, staring at the search results on her phone. Dozens of missing persons forums, old case files, newspaper clippings. From 2001, one headline made her hands go numb. "Infant Leela Walsh vanishes without a trace. Mother believes she was taken by family." There was a photo, slightly pixelated, but unmistakable. A baby girl in a lavender blanket. The same blanket Skylar still kept in her keepsake box under her bed, though she never knew where it came from. Her name was Leela, not Skylar. And somewhere out there, her real mother had never stopped looking. She returned home to find Diane still sitting at the kitchen table, weeping quietly into her hands. Skylar didn't say anything. She just walked past her, straight into her bedroom, and sat on the edge of her bed, breathing heavily. She opened her laptop again, logged back into the DNA website. There was an option to send a message to any match. She clicked Aaron Walsh's profile, hesitated, then typed, "My name is Skylar, but I think you might know me as Leela." She hovered over the send button, her heart pounding like thunder. Then clicked. The message disappeared into the void, and far away, in a small town Aaron never left, her computer pinged. The reply came just before sunrise. Skylar hadn't slept. Her body lay stiff in bed, eyes wide open, fixed on the ceiling as her laptop screen dimmed beside her. The storm inside her had barely calmed since she hit send, and now her inbox pinged, a soft chime in the silence of her room. From Aaron Walsh, subject, "Please read this." Skylar's hands trembled as she clicked it open. "I don't know how to say this gently, so I'll say it plainly. You are my daughter. Your name is Leela, not Skylar. You were taken from me 20 years ago. I never stopped searching for you. If you're reading this, please write me back. Love, Aaron. Mom. Skylar sat motionless. The word mom burned on the screen. She didn't know what to feel. Her life, the life she'd known, was being rewritten in real time. A voice echoed in her mind. I didn't steal you. I swear. I was given you. Skylar rose, her bare feet pressing into the cold floor. She walked to Diane's bedroom and knocked once before pushing the door open. The room smelled faintly of lavender and old dust. Diane sat upright on the bed, already awake, as if she too had never closed her eyes. You got a response, she said quietly. Skylar nodded. She said I was taken from her, that I'm not yours. Diane's eyes welled with tears, but she didn't argue. I didn't know the full truth, Diane said, voice cracking. Rachel told me she had to get you out of a bad situation, that your mother Erin was mentally unstable, that the baby was in danger. She said that. Skylar's voice rose, that my mother was unstable. Diane nodded slowly. I didn't know if it was true or not. But Rachel, she seemed so desperate, so convincing. I didn't think someone would lie about a baby. Skylar took a step back, her breathing shallow. And you never thought to look into it, to ask more questions. I was alone, Skylar. I had nothing. And suddenly I had you. I thought maybe it was fate. Maybe you were meant to be mine. Skylar stared at her. But I wasn't. I was stolen. And you helped hide that. Diane covered her face with trembling hands. I didn't know. Not really. Not until today. The silence stretched. Skylar turned and walked back to her room, closing the door behind her. She sat at her desk, opened a new email, and typed, I believe you. I want to know everything. Skylar Leela. She hit send before she could hesitate. An hour later, Erin replied with a photo. It was old and grainy, a picture of her, younger, holding a baby girl wrapped in a lavender blanket. They both smiled. Skylar touched the screen, recognizing the blanket she still kept tucked away in a box labeled baby things. Tears slid silently down her cheeks. Erin's next message followed moments later. I don't know what you've been told, but I want you to know this. You were never unwanted. You were taken. And I never stopped loving you. Skylar pressed a hand to her chest. The pain of confusion and betrayal swelled, but beneath it, a strange warmth began to bloom. Hope. For the first time, she wasn't just a mystery to herself. She was someone's daughter, and that someone was still waiting. The airport terminal buzzed with distant chatter and rolling suitcases. But Erin heard none of it. Her heart pounded against her ribs as the flight from Missouri announced its arrival. She stood near the arrival's gate, hands twisting the strap of her purse, eyes darting between the passengers stepping off the plane. Then she saw her. Skylar. The girl who had once been Leela. 20 years older, taller, but the same eyes. Erin felt the breath leave her lungs as Skylar hesitated, spotted her, and began walking forward slowly, uncertainly. Neither of them spoke at first. Erin stepped forward, arms trembling. Can I? Skylar nodded. Erin pulled her into a hug so tight, it seemed she feared letting go would make her vanish again. I've waited for this moment for 2 decades, Erin whispered. You don't have to say anything. Just be here. Skylar didn't cry. She didn't hug back right away. But after a long silence, her hand found Erin's back. I don't know how to feel, she admitted. But I wanted to see you. They left the airport together, driving through the quiet streets of Erin's small town. The house looked just like the one from the baby pictures Skylar had been emailed, a little white cottage with flower beds that hadn't been touched in years. Inside, everything was still. Erin led Skylar to the nursery. It had remained almost frozen in time, crib still assembled, mobile still hanging. The dust had gathered, but the love hadn't faded. Skylar ran her fingers across the edge of the crib. You really never gave up. Erin smiled faintly. Not for a second. But as the hours passed and their connection began to spark, another fire burned beneath Erin's skin. The need for answers, the need for justice. That night, over dinner, she said it aloud. I think Rachel did it. Skylar looked up, startled. Your sister-in-law. She had motive. She lived with us. She had access. And now that you're back, she won't talk to me. She refuses a DNA test. Skylar set down her fork. She gave me to Diane. Aaron froze. She what? Skylar nodded slowly. Diane said she didn't know everything, but it was Rachel who gave me to her. Told her you didn't want me. Aaron's face went pale. Her hands clenched. She told the police she had nothing to do with it, that she slept through the night. The next morning, Aaron made the call. She contacted Officer Hafford and asked him to reopen the case. Within 24 hours, a local journalist picked up the story. The headline read, "Missing baby found alive after 20 years. Mother believes family member responsible." The media swarmed. Cameras lined the sidewalk. Aaron refused interviews. Skylar stayed indoors. Rachel, however, appeared unexpectedly. On Aaron's doorstep 2 days later, she wore a thin smile and oversized sunglasses. "I saw the news," she said, arms folded. "Quite the circus." Aaron stared at her coldly. "You knew." Rachel's jaw tightened. "You have your daughter. Isn't that enough?" "No," Aaron said. "Not when the person who took her is still pretending to be innocent." "I didn't take her." Rachel snapped. "I rescued her." Her voice cracked. Her hands trembled. And just like that, Aaron saw it, the unraveling. Rachel turned, shaking, and walked away without another word. Later that night, Hafford confirmed Rachel refused the DNA test. "Her lawyer claims it's unnecessary," he said, "but refusal itself tells a story." Aaron nodded. "Then we need to dig deeper." Skylar sat in the doorway, listening silently. She'd heard every word. She looked down at her hands then, toward Rachel's name in her search history. If she wouldn't give DNA willingly, maybe Skylar would get it another way. The plan was simple, quiet, precise. Skylar stood outside the corner cafe where Rachel always got her morning coffee. Still in the same town, still acting as though nothing had happened. The local news coverage hadn't driven her away, but Skylar could see the tension in her gait, the guarded way she clutched her purse and avoided eye contact. She stepped inside just ahead of Rachel, ordered tea, and took a window seat. Then she waited. When Rachel's name was called, Skylar watched her carefully. She was alone, distracted, on her phone. Perfect. Rachel picked up her iced drink, took a few sips, then set it down to answer a text. Skylar stood calmly, walked over, and spoke in a casual voice. "Excuse me, are you Rachel Walsh?" Rachel looked up, startled. She nodded, uncertain. "I just wanted to say I saw the story on the news. I'm really sorry for everything you and your family went through." Rachel blinked, caught off guard. "Thanks, that means a lot." Skylar smiled politely and left, leaving Rachel to finish her drink. 10 minutes later, when Rachel abandoned her half-empty cup on the table, Skylar circled back and scooped it into a Ziploc bag from her purse, then slid it into a small insulated lunch bag. Back in her car, she exhaled deeply for the first time in hours. Her hands were shaking. She had it. 2 days later, Officer Hafford sat across from Aaron and Skylar at the police station, a manila envelope in his hand. Unofficially, he said, "This is enough." He placed a printed reports on the table, one with Skylar's DNA profile, the other from the coffee cup. "Rachel Walsh is your biological aunt." Hafford confirmed. 25% shared DNA. "That's consistent with her being your mother's sister-in-law and the sister of your biological father." Aaron stiffened. "Mark's sister." "Yes," Hafford said slowly. "But that's not all." He flipped to the next page. "There's a stronger match between Rachel and your adoptive mother, Diane Matthews. We ran Diane's DNA from a previous sample on file, an old parking ticket dispute that required a saliva test." Skylar leaned forward. "What do you mean stronger?" Hafford tapped the chart. "They're not just acquaintances. They're cousins." Aaron's face went white. "You're saying Rachel gave my baby to her cousin?" "Yes, which means this wasn't random. Rachel didn't just hand Leela over to a stranger out of panic or desperation. This was planned. It was deliberate." Skylar's mind reeled. "She knew Diane." Hafford nodded. "They went to college together, lived off campus, close enough that Rachel could trust her to raise a child in secrecy." Aaron covered her mouth. "She robbed me, then hid the truth with family ties." Hafford looked grim. "We now have a pattern, access, motive, deception, and a clear chain connecting the abduction to Rachel." Skylar stared at the report. Part of her felt validated she wasn't crazy. She was stolen. But another part, quieter and more painful, asked, did Diane ever really love me? Or was I just a secret to be kept? Hafford stood. We'll need to bring Rachel in for questioning again, this time. With pressure, Erin's eyes narrowed. She won't admit it. Not yet. Skylar glanced toward the window, where raindrops had begun to fall. Then maybe it's time I talk to her, she said. Hafford paused. You sure? Skylar nodded slowly. I want to look her in the eyes and hear what she says when she knows I know the truth. He didn't try to stop her. The next meeting wouldn't be official. It would be personal, and Skylar was ready. The house was quiet that afternoon, the kind of quiet that prickled under the skin. Skylar sat on the edge of Erin's bed, flipping slowly through the old, spiral-bound notebook she'd found tucked in a dusty cardboard box in the attic. It had Rachel's name on the inside cover, dated 2000-2002. Erin sat nearby, tense but silent, her hands gripping the arms of her chair as Skylar turned the pages. The handwriting began neatly. By the end, it unraveled into something frantic and unstable. Rachel's voice, her true voice, rose off the pages like smoke from a fire long buried. She got pregnant without even trying. Of course she did. She always gets everything so easily. First Mark, then a baby, and me, I get more. Test results, more failures. Skylar swallowed. I told her I'd be happy for her, that I'd help. But when I held Leela for the first time, something broke in me. She looked up at me like she knew I could love her better. Erin's eyes shimmered, but she said nothing. Skylar kept reading. Erin leaves the window open during nap time. She doesn't hear when Leela cries until she screams. It's like she's pretending to be a mom, playing house, but she's careless. She doesn't even know how lucky she is. The next few pages were smudged, written faster. Angry. Mark barely looks at me anymore. Not since the baby. I told him she's overwhelmed. He believed me. Of course he did. They all do. But I know. I see her. She's not fit to be a mother. She's fragile. And Leela deserves more. Skylar paused at the next page. The date read October 8, 2001, the night Leela disappeared. It's done. She's safe now. I didn't hurt her. I saved her. Erin will cry, but she'll move on. She'll have another baby, one she actually wants. One she won't leave crying in a crib. Leela is mine now, and she'll never know what I did. None of them will. Skylar closed the notebook slowly, her pulse roaring in her ears. She hated you, she said softly, not out of cruelty, but realization. She envied everything about you, and she turned that envy into a reason. Erin sat in stunned silence. She thought I didn't love my baby, she whispered, and that gave her permission. She twisted everything. Skylar added, she convinced herself she was the victim and the hero. Erin looked down, her face pale. I trusted her. I let her into my home. I thought I was giving her support. Turns out I was giving her opportunity. Skylar stared out the window. The clouds were thick again, heavy, like the ones from 20 years ago. Why didn't she just adopt? She asked bitterly. Why me? Erin shook her head. Because adoption means you wait. You get screened. You might be rejected. But stealing, that gave her control. It made her feel powerful. The door creaked open behind them. Officer Hafford stepped in, holding a small plastic evidence bag in one hand and a look of grim confirmation in the other. She slipped up, he said. We just got the results from her old laptop. She searched for how to erase a baby's identity 2 days after Leela vanished. He placed the journal inside a second bag. Between this and the DNA, we're preparing to bring charges. Kidnapping, fraud, perjury. Skylar stood. You have what you need. Hafford nodded. We're picking her up tonight. Erin rose beside her, voice low. What happens now? Hafford looked between the two women, mother and daughter, reunited after 20 stolen years. Now, he said, we give her one last chance to tell the truth, before the court tells it for her. Skylar didn't look away, because this time, when Rachel was confronted, it wouldn't be with silence. It would be with evidence, with truth, and with the daughter she never should have taken. The room was small, windowless, and still. Inside the police station's family conference room, 3 women sat separated not just by space, but by decades of deception. Erin's fingers curled around the arms of her chair, knuckles pale. Skylar sat beside her, silent, tense, her gaze fixed on the woman across from them. Rachel Walsh, in a gray sweater and neatly pressed jeans, looked like she had just stepped out of a church meeting, not like someone moments away from being arrested for kidnapping. Officer Hafford stood near the door, arms folded, watching but not interfering. He'd insisted they could speak first, just once, before the system took over. Erin was the first to speak. Her voice was low, but steady. "You took my baby, lied to everyone. Lied to me." Rachel looked down at her folded hands, then up, her eyes rimmed with red but dry. "I didn't lie. I gave her a better life." Skylar flinched. Erin inhaled sharply. "You stole her. She was crying in that crib," Rachel said softly. "Alone. Unloved. I knew what that felt like. I couldn't let her grow up invisible. Like I did. You had no right." Erin snapped. Her voice cracked, but didn't waver. "You broke into my child's room and made a decision that wasn't yours. You shattered my life." Rachel's eyes drifted toward Skylar. "But she turned out fine, didn't she?" Skylar's face twisted. "You think that justifies it?" she whispered. "You think erasing me was okay because I look okay?" Rachel leaned forward. "You were loved. Diane treated you like her own. She gave you everything. She gave me lies." Skylar interrupted, her voice rising. "You both did. I didn't know who I was. I didn't know where I came from. And now that I do, I'll never be whole again." Rachel's eyes shimmered. "I didn't do it to hurt you." "But you did." Skylar spat, tears slipping down her cheeks. "You didn't love me. You stole me." Rachel looked like she wanted to respond, but no words came. The silence stretched thick, unbearable. Erin broke it. "Say it, Rachel. Say what you did." Rachel looked down. Her voice, when it came, was so quiet it barely made it across the table. "I took her. I removed the screen from the window. I climbed in. I wrapped her in the blanket. I left through the back gate. I told Diane she was abandoned. And her voice cracked. "I watched the news every day. I thought, maybe someday I'd give her back. But every day that passed, it became harder, until I convinced myself I had saved her." Erin's shoulders shook. Her face was a mask of anguish and fury. "You watched me suffer. You let me drown in guilt." Rachel didn't respond. Hafford finally stepped forward, voice calm but firm. "That's enough." Rachel stood on her own. She didn't resist as he read her rights. "You are under arrest for the abduction of Leela Walsh, now known as Skylar Matthews. Anything you say can and will be used against you." Skylar stood too, backing away, chest heaving. Erin reached for her, but she pulled away, needing air. Rachel glanced back only once before being led through the door. No apology, no remorse. Just a single look, something between regret and resignation. The moment she was gone, Erin collapsed into the chair. Skylar leaned against the wall, wiping her face. "She didn't even say sorry," Skylar murmured. "She never will," Erin replied, voice hollow, "because she doesn't think she was wrong." Outside, the sky was gray. A soft drizzle tapped the windows. The town below went about its business, cars moving, people walking, unaware that something enormous had just ended. Or perhaps something had just begun, because now, mother and daughter were together. But healing would take more than truth. The courtroom was still, the air thick with tension as the judge delivered the sentence, 18 years in prison. For Rachel Walsh, 6,570 days behind bars, for a crime she committed in one silent moment on a stormy night 20 years ago. Rachel didn't cry. She didn't plead. She simply stood, expression blank, as if the verdict was inevitable. Erin, seated behind the railing, squeezed Skylar's hand so hard her knuckles turned white. But Skylar didn't squeeze back. She stared straight ahead, unblinking, unsure of what justice was supposed to feel like. Relief, closure, all she felt was numb. In the weeks that followed, Skylar moved in with Erin. Diane had quietly agreed to let her go, and Skylar hadn't fought her. The woman she'd called mom her whole life suddenly felt like a stranger, someone she'd mourned without a funeral. Erin tried her best. She cooked meals, left notes on the bathroom mirror, knocked gently on Skylar's door every morning just to say good morning. She never asked too much, never demanded too soon, but the space between them still felt like a chasm neither knew how to cross. One evening, Skylar sat at the kitchen table, aimlessly stirring a cup of chamomile tea while Aaron folded laundry nearby. "Do you remember when I started walking?" Skylar asked suddenly. Aaron paused mid-fold. "No," she admitted. "I never got to see that." Skylar nodded slowly. "Diane told me it was a Tuesday." Said I walked straight toward her with a shoe in my hand and fell on my face. We laughed about it for years. Aaron smiled softly, but said nothing. "She has a photo of it," Skylar added, "in an album marked First Steps. It's probably still in the hallway closet back home." "Well, what used to be home?" Aaron's voice was quiet. "You can go back, visit her if you want." Skylar shook her head. "She lied. For 2 decades. She did," Aaron agreed, folding the last towel. "But she did raise you." Skylar looked up, pain flickering in her eyes. "And you didn't." Aaron flinched. "I know." The silence swelled between them again. Then Skylar pushed back her chair and stood. "I'm going for a walk." Aaron nodded, letting her go. Skylar walked through the neighborhood for over an hour, passing rows of houses that felt eerily familiar, even though she had no memory of them. A park, a bookstore, a crumbling stone wall that children had once carved their names into. She saw her own name, Leela, faded but real, etched in childish print beside 2 others, Mom and Dad. Her breath caught. Her legs wobbled. She sank to the bench nearby and sat there, trembling. She had always thought she came from nowhere, that her life began the day Diane first picked her up. But she hadn't. She had a history, a name, a place. She had simply been removed from it, and the woman who had done it had believed she was right. Skylar pulled out her phone and opened the photo Aaron had emailed her last night, her baby photo. She was wrapped in the familiar lavender blanket, cradled in Aaron's arms. Aaron's face was glowing, flushed with joy, exhaustion, and something Skylar couldn't name. A kind of wild, perfect love. A love that had never had the chance to grow. Skylar zoomed in on her baby face, round cheeks, curious eyes, a hand curled into Aaron's hair. "I don't know who I am anymore," she whispered. Back at the house, Aaron sat on the couch, holding a small showbox of old keepsakes. She took out Skylar's birth bracelet from the hospital, Leela W. 6 pounds 4 ounces, and held it to her chest. She'd kept everything. Every picture, every letter from detectives, every birthday card she'd written and never mailed. Every memory Rachel tried to bury, Aaron had kept alive. She heard the front door open and quickly slid the box under the couch. Skylar stepped in, her hair windswept, her cheeks pink from the cold. "I saw the wall," she said. Aaron looked up, puzzled. "The old wall by the park. You carved my name." Aaron smiled gently. "You held the stick. I guided your hand." Skylar walked over and sat beside her. For the first time in days, she didn't seem distant. "I want to remember more," she said. "Not just what was taken, but what was here." Aaron's eyes shimmered. "Then we'll remember together." They sat quietly, the soft ticking of the wall clock the only sound between them. Some silences don't need to be filled. Some heal on their own. And some, like Rachel's, come with a price. It started with a journal, a blank one. Skylar found it tucked between old books in a dusty box Aaron had pulled from the attic. The cover was soft leather, worn at the corners. The first page was blank, inviting. Waiting. Aaron noticed her holding it. "I was going to write letters to you in there," she said, almost shyly, "after you were taken. I thought maybe one day you'd read them." Skylar ran her fingers over the page. "You never wrote any." "I wrote them in my head, every night, for 20 years. Skylar smiled faintly. "Maybe now it's my turn." She opened to the first page and began to write. The town had changed in 20 years, or maybe Skylar had. The corner bookstore where Aaron used to read to her as a baby was still there, but the windows were fogged and the paint peeling. The old swings in the park creaked in the breeze. The sidewalk by the bakery still had a chalk stain shaped like a star. Aaron had drawn it for Lila's first birthday, just hours before everything changed. They walked through those places together now, not as mother and child separated by time, but as two women trying to reclaim something that had been stolen. Sometimes they spoke. Sometimes they didn't need to. Healing didn't come all at once. It crept in slowly through shared glances, quiet mornings, photo albums, and awkward jokes over dinner. Skylar still had nightmares. Aaron still cried in the laundry room. But they no longer grieved alone. They were building something new. 3 months after Rachel's sentencing, Skylar received a letter from Diane. It wasn't long, just a page, but it was written in her familiar, tidy handwriting. I know you may never forgive me, and I don't expect you to, but I want you to know I loved you every day of your life, and I still do. I'm so sorry for what I didn't see, for what I accepted too easily. Skylar read it in silence, then folded it neatly and placed it in the back of the journal. Aaron noticed but didn't comment. Forgiveness was a door only Skylar could open. In late spring, Officer Hafford invited them both to a small press event. The department was unveiling a cold case initiative, highlighting Leila Walsh's return as the first success story. Skylar stood beside Aaron at the podium, her heart thudding as cameras flashed. I was raised under a lie, she began, her voice steady, not just about who I was, but about where I came from. For 20 years, I believed my life began in someone else's home. It didn't. It began in this town, in that White House, in the arms of a mother who never stopped looking. She turned to Aaron, then back to the crowd. I don't want to be remembered as the girl who was taken. I want to be known as the woman who came home and helped others find their way back too. The applause was quiet but heartfelt. Afterward, Aaron slipped her arm around Skylar's shoulders. You were always meant for more. That night, Skylar opened her journal again. She wrote, I used to think identity was about who raised you. Now I know it's about who never gave up on you. I am not just Skylar. I am Leila. I am both. And I'm not lost anymore. She closed the journal, a quiet smile on her lips. In a prison 2 counties away, Rachel Walsh sat on her cot, staring at the wall. Her lawyer had dropped her appeal. Her cousin, Diane, had refused to speak to her. And the girl she once rocked in secret now stood tall in front of cameras. No longer a secret at all. Rachel had rewritten someone else's story. Now Skylar Leila was taking it back. Back in Aaron's house, the nursery had finally been transformed. The crib was gone. The walls, once soft pink, were now painted a calming shade of seafoam green. A desk sat by the window, and shelves lined with books stood where stuffed animals once were. It was Skylar's writing room now. Her place to tell stories, not of loss, but of survival, of stolen years reclaimed, of mothers who never stopped believing. Aaron stood in the doorway, watching her daughter type at the desk as golden sunlight spilled across the floor. She didn't say anything, she just smiled, because some stories are broken, but some, when rewritten with truth, become whole again.